The Jack Miller Center for Teaching America's Founding Principles and History presents Dr. John Strassburger, president of Ursinus College. Dr. Strassburger discusses the importance of a classic liberal education with Michael Deshays.
Dr. Strassburger, small liberal arts colleges like Ursinus exist in a very competitive environment these days in terms of competing with one another to get the best students, as well as the competition for resources that are needed to attract those students. And while many small liberal arts colleges are struggling against the competition, Ursinus College is flourishing. What explains your success at Ursinus and the quality of students enrolled here?
That's a terrific question, Mike, and obviously it's one we've thought about. Back in the 1980s, there was a lot of dire predicting about what was going to happen to liberal arts colleges. An awful lot of liberal arts colleges became much more pragmatic, much more vocational in their focus, and that was even true of Ursinus. But since the middle 90s, we've gone in the other direction. I think the fact that we've been almost singular in saying, let's go back to what liberal education was meant to be about, as opposed to stressing that we're creating graduates who are job ready to be expediters or accountants or whatever it is. And Ursinus went against the trend. And in the process, we discovered what we'd hoped, which is that 17 and 18-year-olds, of course, worry about careers, are still wondering about what they've always wondered about. How do I give my life meaning? Where do I find purpose?
Dr. Strassburger, you're a highly regarded proponent of the classic liberal education. Tell us why a liberal education is so important.
I think it's so important for several reasons. One, I think we're heirs to a great tradition that enables us to experience the fruits of liberty. And it's absolutely crucial that colleges and universities take those questions seriously and allow those students to engage the best minds that have thought about them, rather than simply leaving students at 2 a.m. in their dorm rooms to be chatting about them with one another. So it's really important that students have a chance to say to themselves and to each other, you know, this question has been thought about before, and it sheds light on what we're thinking about. Second, I think when we look ahead, we see how fluid this new world economy is. If we train for one career, we're going to miss the boat. We exist in a society where our obligations to the people that went before us and the people who went after us far exceed anything that we can ever pay back. But if we don't understand those obligations, if we don't appreciate that in some sense we're heirs to a tradition that enables us to enjoy the fruits of freedom, to enjoy prosperity, to enjoy our liberties, if we don't appreciate that we're heirs to that tradition, it's all the more likely we won't take care of it. And we do have an obligation to ensure that those liberties exist for our children and our grandchildren. And so an education has to remind us of what kind of society we live in and why the society turned into the shape it is today.
Dr. Strassburger, describe your views regarding how important it is for college students to deepen their knowledge of America's founding principles and history.
Well, as an American historian, I think it's absolutely crucial that students understand both the strengths and the weaknesses of our current system. And I think if they don't appreciate the strengths and weaknesses of our current system, the strains democracy can put on community, the obligations democracy creates for all of us to pay attention to those people that lack privileges or are denied opportunities, the opportunities it creates for ourselves to pursue our own happiness. If we don't understand how that system works, our pursuit of our own self-interest can become wanton and reckless. I would add, though, it needs to be done in a context where we're deepening the knowledge of our own history alongside of increasing our understanding of other cultures and other societies. If we don't understand the nature of politics, I'm thinking of a philosopher who said, good politics create opportunities for people to behave better. If we don't understand what good politics consist of, if we don't move beyond short-run versions of self-interest, we lose all those other opportunities to do good as well.
Dr. Strassburger, what advice would you offer to students and their parents regarding their choice for college?
I'm asked that question a lot, and I'm a parent as well, and remember what advice my daughters refused to accept. So when I think about the question, I think about a couple of things. One, I encourage 17 and 18-year-olds to take themselves very seriously in this process. Treat their questions and their concerns as of the utmost importance. And I encourage them, too, to ask those questions when they visit campuses. And if they find a college or university that seems uninterested in them or uninterested in their questions, I think they ought to rule that out. Second, I think they ought to look for an environment that's going to challenge them. The main idea shouldn't be to find the college you can get A's in, but the college where you may not get A's. And third, I think it is important for students to look for an institution where they'll be engaged with the issues and with their faculty. For the students who come here, if I were to give them one bit of advice, and as you can imagine from the way I'm talking, I in fact do give them advice. The first advice I'll give them is reach out and get to know your faculty. The way to capitalize on an education is to be able to engage in a dialogue with a faculty member. Well, that rules out, in fact, a lot of universities where you're not going to know a faculty member if you're one of 600 in a class. So I'm not eager to say that there's one right college for each and every student, but I think for each and every student, they can find a college that'll deal with them as serious human beings, and that's the beginning of being a right college for them.
This has been a Jack Miller Center digital media presentation. For more information, visit thejackmillercenter.org.